Welcome to Let's Bet, the show for folks who love betting on sports but hate losing money. I'll show you how to increase your sports betting bankroll by gaining confidence so that ultimately you can have the lifestyle that you deserve. I'm your host, Scott Pritchard, full-time professional sports bettor for the past 32 years and counting. Took third place in the Circa Invitational a year ago, a half game behind Tony, the great Gordon, who ultimately won the Circa Millions contest a few short years ago. I was fortunate to be asked back this year, finished a half game out of third place, and took third place in the season-long Ultimate Challenge contest at the Golden Nugget after last year taking sixth place. You can catch me every weekend in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Todd Dewey, who's been on this show, Let's Bet, did a nice article this week because I've got a big fat ticket, a big fat winner, steak and lobster dinner for a big fat guy. That's where I come in. Chiefs to beat the Eagles, 55-1 odds. I bet it at Circa. The ticket, the evidence right here, 55-1. Eagles to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, October 9th. $4,000, nets $220,000 to get back $224. So the word of the day, hedge, Hedge. I'll share that with you when we get to Pritchard's philosophy. But first things first, a reminder that we broadcast live and worldwide each and every Friday from 1 to 1:30 Las Vegas time on demand on pritchardspicks.com and on your favorite podcast and video distribution platforms. To reach out to us, I would suggest email us at letsbet@pritchardspicks.com. That's let's bet at pritchardspicks.com. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to net win $1 million+ to make it holla? Imagine entering a contest where you out-handicapped thousands of people to net win over $1 million. That's what my guess, Matt St. Marie, Minneapolis product, finance guy, he won the Circa Millions contest, the champion back in 2023-24. Matt St. Marie, friend, colleague, mentor, and all-around great guy. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Pritch, great to be here. Happy Super Bowl Sunday weekend here. Excited to talk about sports betting with you today.
Excited to have you on via remote Minneapolis. I'm telling you, man, I'm a Midwest guy. Love Minneapolis, East Lake Street, Minnesota Twins, Minnesota Wild, Minnesota Vikings. A little bit disappointed towards the end of the season. But first of all, congratulations on winning the Circa Millions to outpick thousands of handicappers. What kind of an emotional roller coaster was that like for you and or your family?
Yeah, I'd say going back a year ago, I'd say the November-December timeframe was the ultimate emotional roller coaster. Not only me, but obviously the stress it brought into the house and around Christmas time. So yeah, I took the lead in the contest right around the Thanksgiving timeframe, and I was just bracing on to hold it for a month. And so you can imagine, as you have the lead in a contest that big with the payout as large as it is, it kind of consumes every waking moment of your day and your thoughts and your brain. So luckily I had a great wife at home, really understood what I was going through and what was the end goal, and allowed me to kind of just focus when I needed to go in the office and spend time away from the family. But it was a roller coaster. Every week you'd just be on pins and needles to see if your picks were coming through or not, and the highs and the lows, some good beats, some bad beats, and everything in between. So it was a hell of a year. It was a great year. It'll be one that will be nearly impossible to replicate, but I'm going to sure as hell try my best over the next handful of years to get back into the mix again.
The fact that you net won over $1 million by winning Circa Millions back in 2023-24, did you spend all the money in one place? And if so, why wasn't I invited?
Hey, you should have been here. You should have been here. No, it's I have a finance background, so obviously the first thing on my mind was how am I gonna, make this even worth more, in the long term. So made some strong investments across the way over the last 12 months. We were able to, upgrade our house and got some fun things along the way. We belong to a golf club now, so that's probably the biggest, thing outside of the house that we've done. But otherwise, we've been trying to keep it pretty modest. just invest it, get the kids' college funds ready to go, and enjoy a little bit of more financial security. But the biggest thing is to just try to grow that money as much as you can, and then live a fairly humble life, although you can upscale a little bit here and there.
Matt, when you talk specifically about your background in finance, how did that help or hinder you? I would imagine it was a big plus based on logic and analytics in winning the contest.
Yeah, so my background in finance, goes back about 15, 16 years now. Anything from, I used to work at Target, and I would be in charge of trying to forecast sales by the hour by store. And so that analytical approach, and my current job in medical device, I'm heavy into the revenue and forecasting, by product line and portfolio planning, market research and analysis. And so it's just understanding, all those numbers, and what's valuable, what numbers do you need to know, and being able to compartmentalize, what you need to know, what versus what you don't need to know, and synthesize it all, and just bucket it, appropriately. But I have a very methodical approach to things, and sometimes it worked out. I'd probably say way more beneficial than not. At times, being an analytical guy, I get maybe a little too far into the analysis, where you start to kind of do analysis by paralysis, and that can kind of hinder you because you start seeing everything from every direction, and all of a sudden you're super conflicted. So I think that's one of the learning points from the last couple of years, is trying to really understand what you should be looking at, and what things are probably a little bit too far into the weeds that you should probably just ignore.
I want to talk specifically about your mindset, your strategy, your process when it came to week in, week out picking, out handicapping thousands of people to win over $1 million in the Circa Millions contest 2023-2024 season.
Yeah, I mean, it really starts in the off season, and I'll be probably taking the month of March off, and then starting in mid-April, I'll start it off again with the NFL draft. So I have my own set of power rankings. I developed them a couple years ago, and then as the draft approaches and completes, and NFL free agency and coaching swings here and there, trying to put a number on what those additions and subtractions mean to get a baseline power ranking as you head into preseason. Then all of a sudden you get training camp, preseason injuries, all those sorts of things. You get the schedule. You can start to analyze, early in the year advantages versus postseason, or I guess second half of the season advantages or disadvantages. But it really starts then and there. And then as far as a week in, week out, every Monday morning, I update my power rankings based off of the stats, the analytics, and then watching the games. I try to watch every game as I can. So sometimes Monday morning, Monday night, I'm still kind of catching up on the NFL Plus network to try to see as much of the game as I can, and then rely on the advanced metrics. So, it starts on a Monday, and then as the week progresses, you're researching the weather in the games. You're looking at the opening lines, and then how those transpire over the week. As you get to Thursday, when Circa kind of locks in their numbers for the week, and then you have another 48 hours to see if those numbers move. It's just like a daily process of staying as close as you can. Friday afternoon, you get the final injury report. That's probably the last biggest piece of the news that you get. And then it's, by Friday afternoon, Friday night, I try to have, at least my, top two, top three that are locked. And then, another list of, 4 to 5 plays that you like, and that you're kind of trying to narrow it down. And so, by Saturday morning, I try to wait as long as I can, to be honest, to submit, because sometimes you get a weird piece of news, a player that's maybe going through concussion protocol is not traveling with the team anymore that you expected to play. And if you submit your picks on Friday night, or you try to play that Thursday game thinking you're getting an advantage, and all of a sudden, two of your other picks could be, shot, by the time Saturday morning comes around. So I really try to wait till the deadline as much as I can. I know life comes into play more than you'd want to. I'm guilty of that too. So, I think it's important to wait as much as you can. I know, I'd say later in the season, when if you're really trailing and trying to catch up, maybe you play those Thursday games to maybe, differentiate yourself because those aren't played often. But otherwise, that was my strategy as I'd go throughout the week. But it was pretty in depth and pretty methodical.
Really enjoyed hanging out with you and your brother Eric a few short weeks ago at the Circa Sportsbook. Again, you were there wearing the coveted blue jacket because you net won over $1 million, being the champion of the 2023-24 Circa Millions contest. How much of a factor did Eric play into this? Was he giving you feedback? And if so, did you listen?
He had zero idea. In fact, so he lives in middle of Wisconsin near Packer territory. And he was coming in town for family Christmas. And usually when he comes into town, it's kind of like, all right, let's go hang out and have some beers. And he was like about a half hour from town. He's like, all right, I'm close by. Like, Eric, it's Friday night. I'm not hanging out tonight. He's like, why not? I'm like, I'm in first place of the contest. There's 3 weeks to go. I'm up by about 2 points. You're like, all right, what's this contest? Like, well, I have to pick 5 games against the spread each week, and the winner gets $1 million, and he just about shit his pants. So, so it was one of those things he had no idea until about 2 to 3 weeks ago in contest. He was in town, and we ended up sweating. Like it was like I had Detroit Lions versus the Denver Broncos that night. They're favored by 4 or 5, and we were sweating that game at home. And luckily, it came through for me. But that was the first time he was made aware of it, and then he became my biggest cheerleader. The last 2 to 3 weeks, and then it was really fun just last week or a couple weeks ago to bring him out to Vegas. He had never been to Circa before, and just to see Derek's property and the winner's ceremony. He thought that was just like the coolest thing ever. We went up to Legacy Club that night and we had a great time. It was a good brother trip with a lot of drinks in hand.
Part of Let's Bet is teaching, training, and explaining. We're going to talk now about philosophy, sports betting philosophy. We call it Pritchard's philosophy, and so many of you have been asking about my future ticket, the exacta, October 9th at Circa, 55-1 odds, the Chiefs to beat the Eagles, mindset going in. And here is the ticket. And let me back up. First of all, no one's asked because no one cares, but I'm going to teach, train, and explain anyway as far as the mindset going into forecasting this. My sports betting seminar, How to Make Money Betting Sports, football edition in August, live studio audience in conjunction with online. You want to tune in this coming August because I'm going to have a round table. The likes of Jim Feist, myself, the Crack Man, Steve Fezzik, and Alex White, who was my guest last week. We're going to be talking about next season's football season, futures, division winners, everything you ever wanted to know about sports betting, but we're too afraid to ask. But back to my point on teaching, training, and explaining. My mindset was back in October was if the Chiefs could get by their first 5 games, even going 4-1, 5-0, the 5 toughest games on their schedule was early and often. I felt they would have the inside track to get back to the Super Bowl based on the fact that they would have the inside track to be the number 1 seed. Where it really got delicate was trying to come up with an NFC team. I was anti-Niners, even though they were the heavy odds-on favorite, having been to the Super Bowl the year before. The second favorite was the overrated, overhyped gunslinger, riverboat gambler, Dan Gamble-led Lions. And I liked Philly, a team that wasn't even projected to win their division back in July. The Cowboys, believe that or not, Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys favored to win the division. Are you kidding me? But the Eagles got off to a slow start. They were 2-2 when I stepped up to the bet window and said, give me $4,000 on the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, 55-1 odds, to net win $220,000 to get back $224. So the word of the day today, hedge. So that's where people have been inquiring, hey, do you hedge? How much do you hedge? How and when? So the short answer, because I want to get back to the guest, the 5-star, rock star, superstar winner of the Circa Millions contest, Matt St. Marie. But quickly, let me explain that right now I've bet right after the championship games, I bet Philly +2 reduced vig. I bet Philly +3 -144. Today, it's +3 -185 at Circa and +3 -188 at Westgate. I say this because even when you're middling, and I'm hedging, but I'm also looking to middle. I'm not taking the Eagles on the money line. I'm hoping for a KC 1-2-3 win to where I win all the money. Down the middle solves the riddle. So Philly +3 -144. Philly +2 -188. 109, and then Philly plus 1.5 minus +0.5. Right now, the line is 1 just about everywhere as money is starting to trickle in consistently on Philly. The idea here is even when you're middling, scalping, grinding, or hedging, you still ultimately want to get the best of it. And as you know, +3 minus 44, when right now it's +3 minus 88. I'm getting a good 44 cents, the best of it. And I'm not done. I'm going to keep, but I'm concerned because, and this game is considered to be a toss-up. So +1.5, +2, +3 is key because if the game goes overtime, there's a good chance it could fall 1. Why? Because the overtime rules. If Team A scores a touchdown, the game's not over. In the playoffs, a la the Super Bowl, someone needs to tell Kyle Shanahan this, by the way, from last year. I was at that game. I was laughing. He was all excited about getting the ball first. Again, he didn't understand the overtime rules, and it ultimately cost him. Imagine that, Kyle Shanahan being out-coached. I can't believe it. It's only happened, 7 times in the last 8 contests when it's a big game. So the idea is if Team B gets the ball then, all right, and they're down 7, and they score a touchdown, they're not going to kick the extra point, because they're not going to give the ball back to where the next score wins. They're going to go for 2, solidifying a 1-point game. And that's where down the middle solves the riddle. And I'm rich. Not as rich as Matt St. Marie, my guest, the Circa Millions winner. That's going to wrap up this edition of Pritchard's Philosophy on Let's Bet. Matt, one of the things, so many people, viewers, were excited about you being on the show because you proactively promote the fact that you are a rec sports bettor. And most people who bet on sports are rec players, and yet you outpicked sharps, wise guys, unfair advantage players, world class and kicking ass. So again, I want to talk about your strategy when you're doing a contest versus everyday betting.
Yeah, so obviously, real betting in contests is, I think it should be completely separated. I think there's a little bit of philosophy. Obviously, you're doing power rankings, you're analyzing matchups, but I think, if you're a professional bettor, you're getting in on Monday, Sunday night openers. You're getting in before the number moves, and by the time we pick games for the contest Thursday, Friday, those numbers have already moved to an efficient market. So I think you have to look at it in a different lens. As I looked through my strategy, going through, probably for the first 75% of the contest, I wasn't really thinking about game theory at all of like where will people be picking games. That came in probably the last 2 weeks. I started caring about where people were going to play, just because I had a large lead and I could probably protect and box people out. So that was a little bit of a strategy. So it wasn't really, some of the picks I was making wasn't necessarily what I'd play if it was, week 3 or week 4. It was more just to, protect my place in the contest. But so there's like a little bit of game theory there. I think one of the things that is unique in a contest is CLV, which is you have a line on Thursday. It can move a point and a half by the time you have to pick, or by the time the kickoff goes on. I think as you're thinking about a contest, I'm not sure if CLV is like the end all be all. I think there's a lot of opportunity to be a little bit different there. Not saying you have to go the other side, but maybe just avoid a game, because the Circa contest has a lot of sharp bettors, and a lot of them love the CLV. And I think, if you're traditional sports betting, that is like a true tried in method to be profitable. But I think in a contest, I think you have to take a little bit of a different lens on, if that's the right play, because you might have, 30 or 40% of the contest following that CLV. And if you just avoid it, and if it doesn't hit, then you can kind of separate yourself in the standings a little bit. So I think that's where, a traditional bet you'd make on, throughout the week is different than maybe a contest play you'd make, Saturday morning before contest picks are due.
Why do you think you won the contest? How? Why? And what would you say, Matt, was your specific unfair advantage?
So I think, I would say luck, a lot of luck. There'll be, a handful of games that should have come on the other side of the coin for sure. I'd say that comes with any, contest win. I think you just have to everything has to kind of align to go 70% over the course of a football season. Secondly, I held a really consistent process. So I developed a process, starting off week one, how I was going to do power rankings, how I was going to look at the matchups, what advanced stats were important to me. And then I really tried to do kind of a bottoms up matchup. So not really like a tops down, or really like, look at what, lines were the week before, and, looking at similar teams and what those lines finished at. My approach was really looking at offensive line versus defensive line, DVOA, looking at the matchup breakdowns as much as I could. You're trying to understand what kind of defenses teams were playing versus the offenses that we're going to be rolling out, and trying to understand if there was a coaching advantage or a scheme advantage one way or the other. And really trying to diagnose from a true game and football standpoint versus the numbers. I obviously used my numbers, so I was trying to blend the stats, blend my power rankings, and then also use the football scheme to try to narrow it down. So that was my process. I held true to that basically all year, except for the last 2 weeks when I started trying to, kind of like I said earlier, box some of the closest people out. But I had developed a fairly large lead in the contest, with 2 to 3 weeks to go, and I was just kind of trying to brace on the last couple weeks. But I wouldn't say I have an unfair advantage. Like you said a couple minutes ago, I'm a rec bettor. I don't have a long history of betting sports. I played DFS and DraftKings, the daily fantasy stuff, for 12, 15 years. As an amateur, I wasn't a pro. I'm a finance guy by day, so my days are pretty filled with just doing my day job. So but I've always loved sports. I've always been a numbers guy. My kindergarten teacher used to quiz me every day, wondering, what the score of the North Stars game was. So that gives you a little bit of background. That was when the North Stars were still in Bloomington, Minnesota. They'd ask me what the score was, and what the shots are, and all the stats and stuff, and I'd relay it like this. So it's always been a passion of mine of watching sports and the numbers behind the sports.
I think that's one of the reasons you and I connected, because like you, I'm a numbers guy, math guy, finance guy. To me, the bottom line is the bottom line. We're going to come back. Actually, before we come back with best bets, I do want to ask, because I'm intrigued by you, this conversation, and your background, your history, devoted family man, finance background, outpicking thousands of people to net win over $1 million, Circa Millions champion 2023, 2024. Personal question, Matt, based on your life experience, if you could narrow it down to just one concrete message that you would share with a child, or maybe your 10-year-old self, based on what you've learned in life, based on what you know today, what advice would you share?
I would say dream big and set some small goals along the way. And as you keep on accomplishing those little goals, your floor keeps on getting higher and higher. So I would say never give up. Keep on dreaming big. It's nice to have ambitions. And the bigger you dream and the little goals you step along the way, the higher floor you'll get.
I like it. Well said. We're going to come back with best bets, not only from Matt St. Marie, myself, but the crack man, Steve Fezzik, Jim Feist, and Tony the Great Gordon. Wow, are you kidding me? What an all-star lineup. Added value, no added cost. We'll be right back.
Alex White here, 2022 Last Man Standing winner at the station contest. Also was fortunate to take second in the Circa Invitational, and I'm a host at Sports by the Book. Check out that YouTube channel. Had so much fun with Scott Pritchard on Let's Bet. We talked futures, Super Bowl, betting philosophies, everything you need to know you can find on this YouTube channel. So make sure you check it out. Let's bet.
Alex White, Last Man Standing winner a few short years ago, stations contest, and this year she took second place in the Circa Invitational. It's time now for best bets. My guest is Matt St. Marie, Minneapolis winner, champion of the Circa Millions 2023, 2024. Prop bets, sides, total, money line. What do you have, my friend? Best bets. Matt, you're up.
Yeah, so for Super Bowl, I teased the Eagles up to 7.5, and then I paired that with teasing the over down to 42.5. So I know some books allow you to do that, some don't, but the book that I was using allowed me to do that. So that's my biggest position of the weekend. From a props perspective, I like Mahomes rushing attempts over 5.5. If you look at the past Super Bowls with Kansas City, Mahomes has averaged 7.5 rushing attempts. A couple ways to get there. Either they're winning at the end of the game, a couple kneel downs. If they're trailing, I think Mahomes will be able to rush around, and the meat of the defense for Philly is in the interior. So I think that they'll be able to. Mahomes will have to scramble a little bit this weekend. A couple other props I like. I like Butker over 7.5 points. I think there's a realistic pathway here where KC is able to march up and down the field, and that Fangio defense kind of puts the clamps down in the red zone. So Kansas City has traditionally struggled against the Fangio defenses in the red zone. And I think this is a good opportunity for Butker indoors to knock a couple through the goalpost for field goals, and then a couple extra points will get you over the 7.5 points. And then I also have a 2-point conversion, yes, plus 150.
There you have it, best bets from Matt St. Marie. And it's kind of interesting because you didn't know what the Crackman, what one of his best prop bets was, but it's correlated consistent to the KC kicker Butker. You like over 7.5 points. Well, the Crackman likes Butker over 1.5 field goals minus $1.35. That's Butker over field goals 1.5 minus $1.35. Fezzik, he's betting the first quarter. Will both teams score in the first quarter? And Fezzik says no. N-O, no, minus $1.45. Jim Feist, legend, according to the New York Times, and you don't want to argue with the New York Times unless it's about politics. Then I'll argue all day, every day. The New York Times says Feist is a living legend. Okay, Feist, his best play. He has so many, but one of his absolute best is Patrick Mahomes over under passing attempts. Now, he bet over 34.5. It's been bet up to 36.5. So buyer beware. Tony the Great Gordon on this show last week. I mentioned Tony, Circa Millions winner on this show, but he mentioned last week, he and I both bet it, but I'm going to give you the analysis. He gave out the play, Barkley, stud running back, number 26 for the Eagles, receptions over Red Rover, 1.5 minus $1.65. What a difference a week make. It's been bet up to minus $2. So again, it's up to you. It's your money if you want to lay the $2. I wouldn't lay minus 2 to 1. I laid $1.65, but it's nice to know I'm getting confirmation, validation from other fellow sharps, other wise guys, seeing what Tony saw and what I have been able to analyze. So Tony the Great Gordon, Jim Feist, along with the Crackman, Fezzik, and Matt St. Marie. You're watching Let's Bet. We broadcast live and worldwide each and every Friday from 1 to 1:30 on demand on pritchardspicks.com and on your favorite podcast and video distribution platforms. Now, Matt, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Saint, or X now at Matty Saint.
I want to thank you for taking the time out. I know you're busy with your family. You're busy with finance, solving the world's problems, because people like me are creating some of the world's problems. But really enjoy you joining us on Let's Bet from Minneapolis. Really enjoyed hanging out with you and your brother Eric. And the next time you're in Vegas, we'll be hanging out again. Continued good luck. Until next week, my friend, see the cashier. All right, I guess I left him speechless. Matt, are you still there, my friend?
Oh, I know I'm supposed to close it out.
Yeah, well, I'll close it out, but I just wanted to say thanks for being on the show, my man.
Sorry. It's been an honor, Pritch. It's been fun getting to know you a couple weeks ago, and hopefully we can stay in touch. And next time I'm in Vegas, I'll hit you up.
Matt St. Marie from Minneapolis, the winner of the Circa Millions contest 2023-2024. I'm holding up this ticket because I'm loud and I'm proud. The Eagles to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs in exacta. KC to beat Philly October 9th, Circa, $4,000, 55-1 odds. Are you kidding me? To net 220,000. So again, I'm hedging with the capital H, and I have Philly +3 minus 44, +2 minus 09, and +1.5 minus 05. And I'm not done yet. For Matt St. Marie, my name is Scott Pritchard, founder of pritchardspicks.com. To reach out to us, email us at letsbet@pritchardspicks.com. That's letsbet@pritchardspicks.com. Until next weekend, see the cashier.
Bye.